Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis, and we are super excited for our guest today. I was just chatting with him right before we kind of hit record here, and I was saying, how much respect I've had for him over a long period of time. I used to coach against him as a coordinator in Allenton Catholic when he was at Swampscott and had some loaded teams offensively and defensively. And then to see the success that he's had at Milton over the last, 7 years or so, it's quite impressive. I have some stats I want to throw out there a little bit today. And then obviously the state playoff football system, which I know Coach here has a proposal that is going out there as far as the system goes and the tweaks and the things that may need to be changed or something different. And it statistically can back it up. I know has evidence-based things and things like that. So it's an honor to have on here. So the head football coach at Milton High School, Steve Dembowski.
Hey, Anthony, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, I kind of gave you a hype up there a little bit, as this kind of started, but I am really impressed. I've done my homework on you a little bit, and as I said, at Allenton Catholic, we went against you back-to-back years in the playoffs. And you had some loaded offensive teams, some studs, and it was tough to prepare against you defensively and call a game against you. But as I said, you've had a lot of success at Swampscott. I even found an article that you considered the greatest, one of the football coaches, North Shore history, Steve Dembowski, greatest football coaches in the North Shore history over a 10-year span. So I thought that was really cool and interesting too. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about yourself as a coach and who you are a little bit, your identity, and you've done it successfully at a couple of different places. But, let's start at Swampscott. I mean, just talk about your time there, the success you had and so on and so forth.
Um, Gee, I started as a player, picked up football in eighth grade. I played for Stan Bondalevich, who's a legendary coach, or who won over 250 games at a few different schools, but mostly Swampscott. He coached some unbelievable players, and I had Stan for 2 years. He's the one who kind of convinced me to stay in football. I was a big soccer guy as a kid, and then I played for Bill Bush, who I eventually then took over for. I had a great career at Swampscott. My senior year, we were 9-1, lost to Beverly. They went to the Super Bowl instead of us. It was a big game in the North Shore. Both teams were 8-0 at the time, and it really just kind of got my mind into coaching. And after my playing days at UMass Amherst, I was fortunate that Bill Bush offered me a spot and gave me the defensive coordinator reins at 24 years old, and really caught the bug. We had some good teams, made the postseason in '96 and '97, and Bill stepped down after the '98 season. And in '99, I was off and running. I thought I knew all the answers, like a lot of young coaches will tell you, and I didn't. We were 4-6 and 4-7 my first 2 years, and I went to the MIA Coaches Clinic and saw a gentleman named Frank Stamilio from Connecticut, who was at Southington at the time, talk about his evolution to the spread. And I knew I had this kid named Kyle Beatrice coming up that could throw the ball, and we had the types of athletes that were better suited to run pass routes than they were to run between the tackles. And I basically told everyone on my staff, this is what we're doing. You can buy in or you can get out. And it was, an adventure that, the first year we went 7-4 and learned a ton on how to practice this type of offense and what to be ready for, and how your defense had to complement your offense, and they had to work together. And
Right.
and we built it up where we, the second full year in 2002, we made the postseason, and just had a great win in the semifinals, and then lost a heartbreaker to North Attleboro in the finals, 44-40. But we were off and running at that point, and it's just been it continued to evolve, and we started throwing RPOs in 2009 before it was kind of even a word that was out there, just because people wouldn't cover all the receivers. And I've been fortunate. I had a great 21 years in Swampscott, 16 as head coach, and then in 2015, Larry Rooney at the time, who was the AD at Milton, recruited me to to come here, and I lived here already, and my kids were getting older. My wife was traveling for business. I knew I wouldn't be able to go back and forth. I'd done that for 10 years, basically an hour and a half in the car each day, going to and from practice in the fall. And I walked into a great group of kids that wanted to learn, and we had some super athletes, and we had another, magical season. And this town really bought into football from that point forward. And 8 years later, it's been really good.
Yeah, and that first year, I mean, you guys came out like you broke all sorts of like offensive records, points, touchdowns, everything. And then it was cool to see over that span too. You won about 75% of your games. So 75% of your career there, you win. So that's a high percentage in football. In baseball, you're making $500 million with those with that percentages, right?
Right,
So
right.
it has been impressive to watch you as a coach, and obviously the success you had this year. I mean, you were right there till the end, and but jumping into talking about you, so you've obviously had a lot of success coaching. You've coached a lot of different spots. You've seen a lot of different types of football played. You've evolved as a coach and so on and so forth. You see the playoff systems and how they've been over the span of when you started to where it currently is now. And I know that you have a proposal that you and I kind of chatted about. I've taken a look at it when you sent it to me, and it's interesting. It's really interesting. So I really wanted to give you the floor to kind of talk about it a little bit. Obviously I'll interject when I want to just ask questions or clarify things maybe for the audience. But I'm really interested to hear this as someone who's won a lot of games and been successful, and, has run programs, not just well on the field, but also off the field, like, understanding the dynamics of who you play and where you play and the type of opponent you play. And all that is so interesting. So I just wanted to give you the floor a little bit to chat about it, and go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So about 20 years ago, I got involved in the Coaches Association. A lot of wisdom in the room, a lot of great guys, and in that 2009, 2010 era, there became talk about the 10-1 team, the 9-2 team that wasn't making the playoff system because they didn't win their league. So you lose one game in September, and you couldn't make the playoffs. That was kind of the way it was. And we they were already, when I got on the committee, they were already deep into, we're going to play 7 weeks. We're going to take 8 teams from each division in each section of the state. I mean, I don't know, people probably forget, like, it's only been a couple of years, but
Yeah.
we used to have the West, the Central, and the North and the South. So really, where I got involved was putting together the numbers and the presentation. It was really apparent at that time that the state was segmented in the way that its proposals came in. The East did one thing, the Central had a proposal of their own, and the West did something, which was really kind of weird. I'm a business guy by nature, and to see that we weren't all operating on the same format was kind of unusual.
Yeah.
That's what led to Springfield Central and St. John Shrewsbury, two powers from the west and the central part of the state, ending up in Division 2 initially. And then once the number of teams got pushed down into Division 6 and 5, where they were not an equal amount to what was in 1, 2, and 3, they then, well, maybe I'm going too fast. So we get this proposal passed,
Yeah.
and it was a 2-year pilot. Once the football coaches bring a plan to the MIA football committee, if the MIA football committee takes the plan, it basically becomes like the bones of what they want to do. So if they approve it, which they did in that case, the committee took it and kind of ran with it, and they tweak it and they add in all the language. So when you get a lot of newspaper coverage, and people don't always understand the way that it works. The MIA, and I heard, I think it was the Medford AD on one of your earlier podcasts, talked about basically that the MIA is basically a collection of its members that run the committees, and then the people at the MIA are supposed to oversee and make sure that the policies are carried out in the way that it's voted on by the members. So the football committee takes the plan, and we do it. We play 7 weeks, and I think it was 11. go into the, have playoffs. Um, it's 5 rounds to a state championship and all this stuff, and there's consolation games, and and then the Central says the next year we're going to play 8 weeks, and we're only going to take 4 teams into the tournament.
Right,
It's
right.
like, all right, okay. And you started to see that's what the West was doing already. And then as it came around, it just wasn't working. You were getting teams with losing records. In the one year that Triton got in at 0-7, it was, the system was really, we overshot how many teams needed to be in the tournament. If
Yeah.
we had gone from 4 to 8 back then, we'd probably still be doing what I'm proposing right now.
Wow.
And the so it evolves. So then 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we were voting for the 2021 season. We came forward with really the 3 plans. The one that we're in right now, which was the one the coaches didn't want because of the consolation games. Then we got a plan passed for a 9-week season with an optional consolation game in week 10 and an 8-team playoff that would end, the week after Thanksgiving like it does now. The TMC, which had gone around and pushed the statewide proposal and got it passed, basically didn't want to say no, we're not going with what you said. So they manipulated the background, at least that's what most of us think that were there, to
Okay.
get a emergency meeting, and they got a few people to flip. And we ended up with 8 weeks and 16 teams.
Yeah.
So we're now 2 years into this 16-team statewide proposal. And the statewide is definitely the way we have to go to place the teams in the right divisions. And that's a whole other subject. But there are the football committee really votes on and works on what goes on with the game and the playoff format. We don't determine the alignment. We don't determine the sites of where the games are, who plays when. That's all done through either the tournament manager or through the TMC. So we knew that we needed to help the game that's gone from 313 teams 10 years ago down to 275 this year. We need to create a system that follows the blueprint of the MIA's established rules, which, the biggest one being the first point in the proposal is that care must be taken to maintain the integrity and importance of the regular season. There are kids right now that are done, their meaningful games are done in October.
Yeah.
And it's not every program, but it's a lot of them. And then some that make a tournament game as a 16 seed and get on the road, get in the bus, go take a tough loss, and then they're asked to come back and play a consolation game, and then in most cases a Thanksgiving Day game. And it's really hard emotionally to get those kids back engaged into games. Plus, there's no media coverage in those
Right.
games. There's no local rivalry. It's not a league game. So we're making the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Yeah, so the current format, they basically overshot the fact of maybe like, oh, 16 teams sounds cool, but however, you got to also look at like what the matchups could be and the potentiality of all of that. Now you may be saying, okay, if we shrink it down, you get more competitive games. Like, am I following along correctly saying that
Well,
you're
true.
gonna right away have competitive games out the gate versus having teams having to travel all over the place to play teams that are very, very good, right? Is that kind of
That's
what
that's
you're
a big
saying?
part of it. But the bigger piece that people overlook is that educational athletics should be on the process. The regular season should come and be the priority because not everybody is good enough to make the postseason.
Right.
So kids should play. We're conceding in this proposal a game week for a bye for physical and mental health. And we're then saying, all right, we're going to play 10 meaningful football games. Every kid is going to play the same 10 meaningful football games. And then we're going to take the top 8 teams into a postseason. which to the blueprint of the statewide proposal, that's what it says.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that right now because, like my team this year, we had to go play a Thanksgiving Day game that meant nothing to us other than our league championship in the middle of the tournament.
Right.
And we're not the only. There were 16 other teams that had to, 15 other teams that had to do that too.
Yeah.
But basketball, hockey, baseball, no one else is doing that. No other sport in the MIA is playing consolation games so the tournament can be run during the season, during the
Yeah.
regular season. So what the state voted this in. Every member of the MIA association cast a vote, and we now like we need to be in line with what we voted
Yeah.
for. And that presents a few other problems, but they're not big enough that they can't be overcome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're getting at. Obviously, there'd be a ton of advantage for football schools to all play 10 games and for every kid to finish this regular season playing league games, playing their Thanksgiving Day rival, and all that. Because you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at the history of the state and to know who the powerhouse programs are. And you do have some outliers that work their way in, every year and make a run. And usually those are more towards the lower levels. But that's great. But everybody deserves to have a regular season. Every other sport does.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And like you said, like playing a Thanksgiving game when you're in the heat of the playoffs, like it's your league titles on the line. It's like you're in championship mode for such a long time, and that can be really tough for a team. Like when do you pull the reins back as a head coach? When do you not? Like when do you look like so that can all be really difficult with it too. Now, do you feel like what's the next step from here? So obviously you're talking to me about this right now. So what is the next step from here and how does the next, thing begin, I guess, to get this ball
All
rolling
right.
and to having that
So
consistency?
I presented again, this is the coaches association plan. It's not
Yeah.
all mine, and most of it is copied from the state of Connecticut, which
Okay.
has run this system for 11 years, and this year expanded their divisions even more so they could get more teams this opportunity. Um, but where it goes from here is I presented the plan to the football committee in the fall and said, take it back to your people in your territories, share it. I want to be prepared we want to vote on it in January in our meeting, and I think it's on the 19th. And
Wow.
if it's passed, it's got to go on to tournament management, and then we have to get it done by March 1st because that's the cutoff date for the 2023 football. What do they call it? Format, and that would allow then teams to make the changes to their schedules. So hopefully you can push your league games back into November, and you'll be able to add an extra open date or two in the front of your schedule where you can go out and schedule according to what you're looking for. The power rating formula really is important on who you schedule. If you're a team that wants to be in the postseason, you need to go out and challenge yourself. And if you're a program that's just playing football and you have that magical year every 10 or 20 years, then you're probably not as concerned with who you play as much as you are, is it a local game that can be consistent and competitive. So that scheduling is always a concern right
Yeah. And you feel like over the last few years, especially in this current format, I mean, that is kind of everything. I've seen coaches that sometimes are prisoners to the league they're in too. If they're in league play and their league's not playing well, they're not getting points for games and they're not maybe getting the best matchup they could or a seed that they could, based off of, who their prisoner are playing too. So
now. There's
that's,
no doubt.
yeah.
No doubt. The biggest league that comes to mind is the Hockomock League. The
Mhm.
league is a very competitive football league. They have had their teams, if they get the 3 wins, they're qualifying for the tournament because of who they play and because of how good they all are and they win their non-league games. And then you have people like the Tri-Valley or this year the Northeast Conference. Marblehead goes 6-1. Lost to a good Peabody team and they were the 8th seed. That was my second round game this year. I mean, I hate to tell you, but they're really good.
Yeah,
So
right.
they're really good, and they were an 8. And if they were able to go out and schedule, you think about it, if we go from 8 games to 10, you're adding 25% more games to your formula for the power rating, which makes it more accurate. Jim Clark would be the first to tell you the formula was designed for sports that play 20 games. So the more games you play, the more accurate the formula is. So by adding 2 more games, it makes the system more accurate, and will help get us to the point where you basically probably have to be 7-3 to have a chance to make the tournament.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense too. I think that obviously it puts like the most competitive product out there too, which I think is really important as well. That you can do that, and like you said, leagues like some leagues, some years are just really tough leagues, and you
Yeah,
draw a tough team when you play well all year because of a formula that when you watch a team with a naked eye, like this is a good football team, it's gonna be a tough football team.
yeah, and I think the other reason too to eliminate one round, and we've played 128 first round games over the last 2 years. 16 underdogs or lower seeds have advanced. So that's 12.5%.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah.
Now, most of them, a lot of them, I'll say, what do I got here? I got 5 of the 16 were in D8. All right. Now, Division 8, as you know, or might not know, I don't know, I'll tell you though. D8 is the dumping ground for everyone who cries poor man, or for all the small schools. So they have the biggest division already.
Right.
And now in the new alignment, which just came out like a week ago or in December, they're proposing that D8 is going to have 50 teams
I
in
mean,
23, while Division 2 will have 25.
right, right.
So is that an equal path to a champion? Like, we just put in the statewide proposal 2 years ago, and we're already deviating from the basic ground rules of the proposal, which would people would have an equal opportunity to a championship. People would you'd have your regular season would be complete before a postseason. Like, all these things we're not following, and the objective here is to give football a fair and equal regular season and a fair postseason. We know we can't take 16, 32, like they're doing in the other sports. We understand that, and we don't want to disrupt the other seasons. And there are ways to do this without doing that. But it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I feel like the majority of the room understands what we're trying to do, why we're doing it, and that you know, there are rules that we're not following that need to be followed. And we're gonna, and there's obviously a ton of benefits for the kids that play the sport, and for those who watch it as well.
So where do you feel like they're at? I mean, do you guys feel confident that this is something that will go through, or are you really kind of on the fence like everybody else of like, I'm not
Well,
sure.
the 16 voting members, obviously we need to get 9
Right.
for the majority. I feel like we have that, but there are people who are going to be pressured to not interrupt the winter season, or don't give football any, they get too much. I think the fact that we play at Gillette in our championships, I think a lot of people look down on that because other championship games aren't played at beautiful venues all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you saw that this year when they eliminated the champions breakfast because the other sports weren't having championship breakfast. And that breakfast was, having been lucky enough to go to it once, that was an opportunity for the kids to kind of get a dry run of what their day was going to be like at Gillette, because you go in through the bubble, you warm up in the bubble, unless you're the first game,
Right.
and then you're in the locker room, you're out of the locker room, everything's on your sideline, and then you're out the side,
And you get rushed right. I remember being there when I was at Kathy. You just
Yep.
get rushed right out, go right over here, take your pictures. Here's the trophy, out the door. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
it's it's interesting, you
yeah,
know.
it's TV, it's theater. It is what it is, and that's part of it. And the other part of it is the media breakfast stood as a chance for the local media to do all their interviews of those kids and to write their preview stories. So while all those captains from those schools were there with their head coach, the Danny V's of the world would be there. He'd grab you for 5 minutes. He'd ask you your questions, and bang, your preview story was ready to be written. And that was like a twofold morning, and that got eliminated because people complained. Which I get it. We don't need. I think football doesn't need special treatment, but we need to be understood and be given the same treatment that was voted on. And that's kind of what we're hoping because there is some good football being played in the state. There's a lot of kids that are working really hard at it. We've had kids, who are getting more and more attention and getting into college across the state at all these different schools. I'm working right now on the association all divisional, all state teams to complement our Super 26, and the number of kids that are getting Division, one scholarships and either getting aid or assistance at the Division 2 or 3 level. It's impressive. It really
Yeah.
is opening doors for these kids.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we do here, specifically like on our Instagram page. Like we have kids who will send us clips, their huddle clips or touchdown, big hit, big run, pancake, whatever it is. And we kind of post it, tag them, throw some cool music to it and send it out. And I think that that's like, I'm glad to see that's like what high school sports is somewhat becoming. Like it's that quick, flashy little stuff that's like fun, that could really, give kids excitement. Like, is it the kids' fault that the Patriots roll out the red carpet and do all that stuff for football? Like, or is that more maybe the other professional teams not doing that maybe like they should for the other sports, right? Like it stinks that you get penalized in football that like other sports don't get to do it, but if the Patriots roll it out for you, I mean, what, how do you not take
Right.
it? How do you not, do it? So I'll kind of give you anything else that you want to say, but let me just ask you this: like, now, if this is something that passes, let's say it gets voted, what's the next steps? Is it just immediately implemented? Now this goes down to like ADs, and then ADs kind of spread. I mean, what would be then the next steps to, because the season comes quick. It's like 6 months, half a year, and then you're kind of jumping into it. Is this something you begin to implement immediately? How does that work?
Well, it's a process at the MIAA, so it never comes back to the schools.
Okay.
Um, if the football committee approves it, it will go through the safety committee, who I've spoken to already. It will go to the TMC, or they call safeties more like medical committee, and it will go to the TMC, and they'll then, they'll be the hardest hurdle because, they'll be in conflict because they're most of the people on the TMC are the ones that push the statewide proposal. And like I already said, we're not providing an equal path to the championship right now. We're not providing an equal experience right now. So they're going to have to do something, whether they're willing to, move the winter season back a week to start a week later and end a week later and start the spring a week later. I know the spring coaches would love to be outside when they start. So I don't think the
Right.
spring is really the question. I know that the lacrosse just voted to extend the qualifying week or the cutoff of the postseason one week later, so they could get more games in because of bad weather. Um, so this could be a really good thing overall, depending on how it's looked at. It would be great in our proposal. The higher seed would host the semifinal game on their campus on that Tuesday night,
Okay.
um, which would be great for local football. And then the semifinals and finals would be at um, different locations. But there's a lot of good things in the proposal, um, and we feel like it's very within the rules of what this association has laid out for its, or the members have laid out within the MIAA, and it's the best thing for the game because while you see the best teams playing on those playoff games, there are lots of other programs that are struggling now with numbers, and it's declining. And there's even private football in the spring, and these are all things that are going to take away from the great high school experience. That's one of the reasons why I'm in the game, and the reason I volunteer my time on the association is to promote this game and to give kids exposure and experience that they can hopefully utilize the lessons they've learned, open some doors for some opportunities beyond high school, and just grow from it. And we're trying at our association to do these things, and to help these kids, and a lot of good is happening. And this would be a huge step in the right direction.
That's awesome to hear, and I think what's so great about it is the fact that like it's detailed, it's backed up. You're keeping an account everything. Like you mentioned, the winter sports and the spring sports. Like absolutely, how many seasons now have you had spring sports start and it's snow outside and the weather's terrible, and it's just like, yeah, they wouldn't mind it probably getting pushed back 2 weeks, truthfully, because then you think of all the rainouts and everything else and field of flood. So there's a whole big thing to that, but it seems like it keeps in mind everything. Do you guys like talk to other associations? Like you kind of making this proposal, do you speak to the other associations or other sports? Just out of curiosity more than
No, it's a
anything.
great question, but like we don't. There's no like networking like that. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I speak to the basketball coach at my school. I speak to the hockey coach. And obviously I have kids that play for both of them, and we support all that. And we don't want the kids to miss anything. I mean, football coaches, we want the kids to play everything.
Yeah,
Play all the
exactly.
time. Just go compete, go work out, have fun. The
Yeah.
days go by fast, and pretty soon you're just the guy on the sideline with a clipboard and a headset.
That's it. That's
So
it.
you're the guy with the pencil, and you want to have it last. So
Yeah.
uh, that we're we're just trying to improve the game. As I've said in the football committee meetings, we don't get to decide. Like, if I give you an example, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, the tournament management committee voted on August 2nd of 2018 that we're going to go to federation football rules. Right? We didn't vote about that at the football committee. We didn't. They didn't ask the officials about it. They decided to do it in part to set the way for the statewide proposal. They did that to football, volleyball, and baseball. They changed the rule set in an August 2nd meeting when really no one was paying attention, without without contacting any of those football, baseball, or volleyball committees for their input. They didn't speak to the officials. And then when the football coaches and the football officials said, "Wait, what are you doing? We got all these guys that know these rules, and now there's 126 new rules you want us to learn the differences to."
I remember that. I was at the time I was coach at AC. I was the head coach at AC, and I remember
Yeah,
saying to my staff, I was like, "Well, you just got to look at the rules that are like going to happen the most, and just make sure we know those rules really,
right.
really well." Because if a like perfect example, we're playing Archbishop Williams. This rule's crazy to me because it's like a safety rule. The quarterback's rolling out, he's out of the pocket, he throws the ball away. In federation rules, that's intentional grounding, even if he's out of the pocket. Like it's like, yeah, so you want this quarterback to hold on to the ball and he has no way of getting out of a play. So of course he's gonna
Mm.
probably try to throw the ball or make a play and take a big hit, like safety wise. Like, so I just found that rule so funny. It's like the quarterback can't throw the ball away because it's intentional grounding. They did it, and I went to the ref. I was like, that's intentional grounding. Like, and he looked at the other ref, and then they threw the flag, and that was year one of everything. So they didn't know all the rules, and how
Oh,
how
they
should
didn't.
they? How could they?
And they probably didn't mark it 5 yards back from where the throw was either, because
Probably
that was the
not.
rule. Right? And now here's the funny, what I find to be the funniest thing about federation rules.
Yeah.
This year they said the quarterback can ground the ball by throwing it away, so they took that rule out this year in 2022. I mean, that was allowed in NCAA for the safety of the quarterback
Right.
for a dozen years at least before they made the modification. So I've actually sat in the football committee meetings and argued. They still allow wedge blocking. They still allow kids to jump over the center on the PAT field goal snap. They still allow things that the NCAA, through their due diligence, eliminated years ago to go on.
Yeah.
and we're playing by this rule set, and you know it's not great, and it is what it is, and you can only argue so many things. But when you talk about they have the authority to change things like the rules we play by, if they need to move the calendar 5 days or a week, they have the authority to do that.
Okay.
And our hope is that we show them the points and show them the pros, and that the football committee votes in favor, and then the TMC and the board of directors will have to make the necessary adjustments to make it work. We do not want to, as football coaches, inconvenience any other sport, but we want an equal opportunity to what was voted on, and we want our kids to have a fair regular season. And if they qualify for the postseason, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I feel we feel we've worked really hard to do our research and to look at all the different narratives and to be good listeners when it's time to listen, and then to have the facts to back up what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I think this is a great education. And as I said, you sent it to me and I looked it over. And, I'm going to kind of continue to look it over because I am really interested in some of the things that you're saying. And I appreciate you coming on. Anything that we can do to help, put it out there, the day of the vote or anything social media wise, Twitter, Instagram, like no problem. Like just let us know.
All of that is helpful.
Yeah.
We're going to be, I'm going to be talking to a lot of people, and I know you and I had gone back in the fall, about talking about football, and
Yeah.
obviously probably spread offense and throwing the ball and all that stuff, all stuff I love,
Yeah.
and my team was magical this year and right up until the end, and I'm truly grateful for all that. But I look at my role now as more of an ambassador, for our association, and just trying to give more kids the same experience that I had as a high school athlete. And so hopefully the next spread guru is coming up, through someone else's program, and they can work on it and take over, because we certainly need, as and I saw you had um, Con Chase on. We need good young guys to stay in the game
Right.
right now, and there is a lot of turnover in coaching right now. We got 275 coaches in the state of Mass, and we'll probably have 50 of them turn over this
Yeah.
year. So
It's tough. It's
yeah,
becoming, I mean, and this is a different topic for a different day, but the pressures of coaching now, I mean, you kind of see it at all different levels, like professional college, like there's that like 3 or 4 year window of, what has your program done? And you see that somewhat at the high school level, but at the high school level, you're also dealing with so many other issues, especially as a head coach and having that experience for a short time for myself and you for such a long time. Like you're dealing with every imaginable thing from equipment to parents to alumni to fundraiser money to like you're in charge of everything. And if you're lucky and you have a boosters club who takes care of that for you, awesome. Like that takes a ton of stress off of you. But a lot of programs unfortunately don't have that. So they are the booster club. So there's a lot of burnout from a lot of different reasons. So you're absolutely right. He was a great guest on here too. But
yeah,
this has been fun. This is great. And I can have you on down the road before the season and we can talk more football shop for sure. Because we used to joke when I coached at AC with Serge Clivio. He always said he was one of the first people in the state to run it. So to see like your article and the numbers, I'm like, oh, okay, like you ran it before Serge did, for like a year before Serge did. He was more under center spread, but yeah, it's you brought something to the table in this state that didn't exist, and I'd argue it probably didn't exist for another 5 6 years, maybe, truthfully, in the state, even after you started doing it, right? So you were running spread, maybe some teams were dabbling in it, but you were like full throttle go before any team really even thought about doing that in the
we were
state.
fully committed to it in 2001.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think the only other guy who did a lot of it was up in Billerica, Coach Flynn, Peter Flynn, used to do a lot of like wacky formations that were shotgun based, and he had a lot of success with that. But we really committed to the 10 personnel, the shotgun, the zone run, some gap schemes and things like, and throwing the ball really with Kyle Beatrice, we threw the ball down the field. We really only had one wide receiver screen in our system.
Yeah.
So, when that kid was throwing 34 and 39 touchdown passes in 2 years and completing like 58% of his passes, that was without, today's bubble screen, which, I always giggle when I look at a highlight film and the first throw is a bubble screen, you know,
Yeah.
that's, that's what they call a scoop of vanilla, scoop of chocolate, in the city slickers. So it's all good, but, I mean, that's the fun part of the game. I think, what you talked about was, I think a lot of the older school coaches, at least when I started, you played a 4-4 or a 5-3, and you played cover three, and that's what you played 95% of the snaps. So the
Right.
preparation isn't what it is today.
Right.
With and again, that's what a lot of us who coach love is the X's and O's. So when you're doing all of the coverages and the schemes, and do you have your gaps fit right and all that, you still have to do we have the right equipment? Are the boosters in line? Have we
Right.
done our fundraising? Do I have any disgruntled players or parents? And and you do need your administrative support. And as a guy who doesn't work in a school system, that's critical. If they don't understand the value that you bring, especially when the college recruiters come knocking on the doors to talk to these kids.
Right.
Um, I know I always had it in Swampscott, and our superintendent here in Milton, when I got here, um, she said, if a college recruiter comes to the building, you let them in, and that was like the best thing ever to hear, is that like she understood the value of what the athletic piece could open up for any kid. And I think it's still a big part. You see, like I said, you see a ton of kids in this state that are getting recruited, and some of them get money and some of them don't, but they're all getting an opportunity because they can bring something to the table.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's why we love it, and it's why it was great to get you on here because of, again, the work that you're putting in. And you said, you mentioned that you volunteered to do that stuff in the Coaches Association, and this time and effort and work and family, and for the betterment of kids and for the betterment of competition and to give an experience. So the tip of the cap to you, and obviously all the coaches that were involved in this process. There's a zillion of them out there that are great. It's a job that is very thankless, but it's very rewarding doing it. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely have you on here again. But like I said, anything we can do to help to spread the word, please, feel free to message us, and we'll put something up for you for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So I'm Anthony Petrellis from Beyond Podcast, guys. Till next time.